The Northern Territory is about to become the last jurisdiction in Australia to re-legalise euthanasia. It was actually the first, passing the country's original assisted dying law in 1995 before federal parliament tore it up 2 years later. Now, 3 decades on, it's closing the gap with the rest of the country. The government says it already has the numbers before a single word of debate has happened, and the vote is now just weeks away, set down for the sitting week of August 25 to 27th. The Rights of the Terminally Ill Bill was introduced to Northern Territory Parliament on the 23rd of July and comes back for debate and a vote in the sitting week this August. A majority of the government's 17 MLAs are expected to support it, enough for the bill to pass regardless of how the opposition or crossbench vote. This new bill limits eligibility to people with 12 months or less to live, and it stops doctors from raising assisted dying with a patient unless the patient brings it up first. Attorney General Marie-Claire Boothby says the goal is laws that are patient-led. Here's the part worth paying attention to. The Territory's own parliamentary inquiry recommended against both of those provisions, no time limit and no restriction on doctors raising the topic. The government kept them anyway. Council on the Ageing Northern Territory Chief Executive, Sue Shearer, said she's pleased the bill is set to pass, but she'd have preferred it without the gag clause or the time limit. She also raised something worth noting. She says the Chief Minister has already promised a review of the laws down the track. If that's accurate, it's not a hypothetical concern. That's the government signalling before the bill has even passed that it expects to revisit these restrictions. Go Gentle Australia, the country's biggest pro-euthanasia lobby group, is already calling these provisions retrograde steps against expert advice. They've compared the gag clause to a doctor telling a cancer patient about taking pills while staying silent on the option for surgery. Now that comparison doesn't really hold up. Surgery treats the underlying disease. VAD doesn't treat anything. It ends the patient instead of the illness. And the clause doesn't withhold information the way the comparison implies. Once a patient raises VAD themselves, doctors can discuss it freely. What's restricted is who can raise it first, not what a patient is allowed to know. Marshall Perrin, who wrote the original 1995 law, has also raised concerns about the bill's restrictions. This isn't just coming from outside Parliament either. Independent MLA Yingiya Gayula said the drafting instructions behind this bill didn't go far enough to protect the First Nations people. He hadn't committed to a vote when the bill was introduced and said he wanted to see the final text first. That's a sitting member of Parliament, not an advocacy group, saying the protections for the First Nations Territorians in this bill may not be adequate. The bill does include some Aboriginal specific measures, mandated Aboriginal representation on the review board, eligibility for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island health practitioners to act as administrating practitioners, and provisions requiring respect for Aboriginal end-of-life beliefs. Whether that goes far enough is exactly what Gayula says he's still weighing up. Put those two things together, the government reportedly already planning a review and a First Nations MLA saying protections don't go far enough, and you will get a clear picture. This bill isn't a settled final answer. It's a starting point that almost everyone involved expects to shift, and history says it shifts in one direction. Canada's law for the terminally ill expanded within a few years to include people who weren't dying at all. Belgium's eligible age has been extended down to children. The pattern doesn't skip Australia. What isn't getting airtime here is the state of palliative care in the Territory. The Northern Territory has some of the most remote, unreserved communities in the country. For a lot of Territorians, especially in First Nation communities, proper end-of-life care isn't a genuine option they're choosing between. It's not there at all. A choice isn't really a choice when the alternative doesn't exist. If you are in the Northern Territory, this is the moment to make your voice heard. Before the vote on August 25th to 27th, we've put together a letter template you can send straight to your local MLA, opposing this legislation and calling for real investment in palliative care instead. Find your MLA's contact details at parliament.nt.gov.au, download the template from the link below, personalise it and send it today. A short, respectful letter from a constituent carries real weight before a conscience vote like this one.